We're live.
Okay, this is the finance meeting, Council Rock School Board. So we'll go around, as is our process, to say who is here. This is Wendy Thomas, Chair of the Finance Committee.
Andy Block, School Board.
Matt Ferguson, IT Director.
Jerry Grubb, School Board Director.
Bob Reiner, Director of Business Administration.
Gail Chloe, Assistant Business Administrator.
Kathleen Mulholland, School Board.
Joe Messina, Council Rock Educators Association.
Mark Silex, School Board.
Garrett Pacey.
Public.
And we have two members of the board who have stepped out for a moment. One is Mark. You'd like to say good? You two. Mike Thorward.
Three. Denise and Ed.
And Denise. Oh, I didn't notice Ed stepped out. Ed.
So, and Kyle, are you on the phone still? Okay. And Kyle McKessie is attending remotely. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to Mr. Reinhardt.
We have an agenda here that's going to take a bit to go through. There's a lot of important items. And actually from last meeting, I've taken one off because it's a discussion item that I just didn't feel we had time to begin with. Very important. We're going to be going over the preliminary results of operations from last year. There's some good news financially. I hope everyone sees it that way. And we're going to talk about maybe operating transfers, where we go with capital reserve money. Healthcare stop loss insurance, you had gotten an update before. I had to make a move on that, and I'm going to explain it to you, and I'm going to show you why I made the move I did. Discussion update on CRUSA stadium usage fees and North Stadium turf. We'll go over that. High school free and reduced lunches, I'm taking that out tonight. I'll take that out earlier because it would be way too long. Stadium sponsorship signs, that was for a holdover from the turf to rock issue that now I have some interest that people want to have some more sponsorship signs up at the stadium. Renewal of contract with Arthur Gallagher, and I just want to give you a quick update on what's going on with busing in the first few days. So why don't we start? Okay, this is what I usually start with. Budget. This year's past budget was $222 million in revenues. Expenditures are $226 million. We expected to use, or we budgeted to use $4.3 million. I always tell you that I'm pretty comfortable that we can use $4 million each year because of my variance historically have been around 1%. Well, you will see that the actual variance, $3.6 million higher than expected in revenues. We'll talk about that. It's 1.65% variance. Expenditures are below by $223 million. It's $223 million, a variance of $3.2 million, or it's off by 1.4%. So that's our variances. So instead of using $4.3 million, prior to discussing any transfers into the capital reserve fund, our fund balance will go up $2.5 million. That creates a variance of $6.8 million, which is really the combination of the two numbers there. We're going to go over that, and you're going to understand why these numbers went where they did. For this purpose, in the past, we've generally moved $3 million out of capital reserve for the future summer projects. I just put that in there. Should we decide to do that, our fund balance will actually go down almost $500,000. Does everyone see how I work through those numbers? Okay. Our current fund balance is $25 million, and I know last year, if you remember, I put all the numbers up and I started moving them around and I messed it up and I was struggling trying to explain what I was trying to do, so we're not going to talk the details of fund balance tonight. So if we would go along with moving the $3 million, our ending fund balance will move down to $24.5 million. Does everyone see how I move through that? Good.
When would we make the decision on the summer projects money?
I would expect that we can talk about it tonight. I'm not expecting a decision tonight. We need to post our annual financial report with Department of Ed by October 31st. So I would expect that October 12th, when Doug shows you his numbers, that's when we're going to have a final decision.
So on October 12th, I'm really asking you or Mike or whoever knows is Doug going to present his summer projects for next summer? Or
I actually have a draft
preliminary?
list.
Okay, so.
I'll make sure he does.
Just make sure that we have that, because,
Yes, that's what this joint meeting's all about, is to talk about our funding. I'm gonna show you where we are with our bond issues and where we are with the projects, and we're gonna have a lot of things
because
to
he asked
talk about.
for, last year, we needed 5.5, I wanna say he asked for.
Yeah, I have big numbers here.
And we lowered it, but debated it. If we had a better than expected year last year, maybe, I know I'm gonna be surprised, I know I'm saying this, but maybe in a summer project, we might give like 3.2.
Let me explain one thing to you as we talk about this. Does everyone remember the issue last year about Plan Con? Where the state did not put one out,
Yes,
and I didn't wanna book the receivable?
yes, yes.
So then up top, we have long-term receivable, $1.1 million, basically our fund balance.
Yes.
We received that, and we all talked about maybe we would move that over if we ever received it. 'Cause remember, I was fighting with the auditor on that?
Yeah, yep, we do.
Well, anyway, you're gonna see impact here too, because although these numbers look big, when you start seeing where they come from, you're gonna say, oh, now I get it. Go ahead to the next one. If you looked, go back for a second, because I should really hone in. You see $3.7 million our variance in our budget is. Now go forward. These are the areas of where our variances are. Earned income taxes went up 12.2%, and I got a history for the next thing. I could have never expected that. I'm going to show you where it went increased and decreased, and then this year, I don't know where this came from. Except I think this guy over here is. Plan con reimbursement. You know all the plan con they didn't approve. Well, this is all the backlog they paid us. So that they paid us that $1 million, and they paid us another $2 million. So those two numbers right there make up almost the full variance in our revenues.
That's what they call
And,
that.
Plan Com is money we got back in buildings, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
You said the $1 million, and then a $2 million, so that equals 3, but I only see 2.
What do you mean?
You overspent.
Actual says
Actual
2.
Plan Con.
Actual plan con. You just said they gave us $1 million. I think that's what you said.
The receivable from last year that they made me book is $1 million.
Okay.
That's not on here.
It's not on here. We already recognized it last year. Now I got another $2 million, so that's the $3 million.
So we
You
got
get it?
3, but 1.
Remember, if I didn't book that receivable last year, this would have been $3 million.
That's,
Remember, I was fighting with them saying there's no way that was available, and I lost it.
okay.
But we did get it, which was good. But when you look at these two numbers, and let's go to the next slide so you can see. Well, you know what, I gotta go back there, but I want to show you this.
All right.
I don't want to go over to earned income tax, go back to the earned income tax.
Which slide would you like?
The next slide.
This one?
Yes. Look at this. Remember I was telling you, I can't believe it's going up so high. We went up 16%, then it went 6%, and 9%, then it went down 2%. Then it only went up 1.16%. This year it went from, what, 16.4 million to 18.4 million. You tell me how that happened.
To what extent is that self-reporting?
I was gonna say collection. Less than it was.
I gotta tell you, collections have been since 2010, 11. I think they've caught all that. You know what I'm wondering? There's high wage earners that have all these stock options. Stock prices went up, they exercised their options, and that is considered compensation. So I believe, I'd love to see what areas this jumped up, and we're doing some research. Gail has some numbers, but I haven't looked at them at that time. But that could be an issue that there is a lot of that type of compensation, deferred compensation.
Oh, you have individual subject, you have records at the individual person level.
I could get them.
I don't want to see them, but you could look through because I'd be interested. What?
By municipality.
You don't have it by individual?
We'd have to request that information.
Because I'd be interested to see, because to verify what you're saying, we'd see tremendous incomes in
Yes.
certain ones and then many
But-
flat.
All that tells us is it's not predictable. Like, we can look at it and go back and say, oh, it happened because of this or that, yeah, it doesn't matter. If you look at history, it just says it's not predictable. So you gotta make a conservative, educated guess from year to year, and there's going to be a great variation. It's
Yes, and I will tell you that I will move this up considerably, probably up to 17 million. I'm not sure I'm gonna go up to 18.4 in 1 year.
I'm not convinced, well, okay,
You see, you think?
I'm not convinced you should go up that high. So,
Well, I'm good with that too.
I think your conservative projections are right on. I think
Yes,
that's-
that's what I'm, yeah.
But I'd be interested, in let's see if we can get that information without too much work. Because our part of the 1% earned income tax is half, right?
Yep.
So that's 1/2 of 1%. Well, to get another $2 million, that's a lot of stock options, right? I feel like that's 400, is it my math right?
No, that's right.
That's right.
That's $400 million in stock options exercised. I don't think that happened in Council Rock School District. Maybe if we were in Northern California, right, the Bay Area or something like that, but I don't think, look at $400 million of stock options.
Well, I will tell you that I've experienced the biggest refund I've ever seen in the earned income tax from a New York City credit. $109,000, do that calculation for one individual. $22 million.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but,
And that was in this district.
okay, so that's the biggest one you've ever seen, that's 22 million, we're talking about 400 million. So that would be 20 of those.
Of course it's not.
So, anyway,
Isn't there, didn't you over budget the delinquencies by $600,000? So,
we'll go back to that, yes.
yeah, so like some of that money,
That has nothing to do with this. Delinquencies are occupation tax, they're.
it's not the same tax?
No.
Okay.
Okay, let's go back, because it was brought up, Plan Con talked about that, real estate taxes. Look at that, 1.1 million. I believe that has to do with our assessed value went up more than what I expected it would go up, and our collection rate went up. Let's look at the offsetting portion of that. Delinquent tax collections were under by $500,000. Part of that, I am sure, is we no longer have collections of per capita tax, delinquent per capita tax, but that isn't that much. I do believe in the first year when real estate taxes go delinquent, we get a large collection there. I believe they paid them in current period, and that's why that went up so much. Real estate transfer tax, that's good. It continues to go up. Basic ed subsidy, if you remember, we knew that after the budget was passed that we were gonna get this $287,000. Remember, we hired some people with that. Student transportation, it went down. I really would have to dig into that. It's a huge, complex calculation that I haven't spent a lot of time on that. Access funding, this is really a district issue that we decided not to take as much access funding, and it's because the recurring revenue we're getting from access has dropped a lot. So if we take all of that, you'll see in this year's budget, I think it's down to 900,000. If we would take that, we'd be drawing all our money down and we'd be running into it's almost like use of fund balance. And then the one taxes. So now you see where it is, and you do see we budgeted a lot tighter than it looked. If you didn't, I could never budget. This is not reoccurring, so if I would have started budgeting that way, it would have been a problem. So I feel more comfortable when I first looked at this and said, I'm off by over 1%, but I wouldn't have been off by over 1% if those numbers didn't come in. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay, this is the expenditure side. Our budget for salaries is almost 1.9 million, we came in at 178, off by 924,000, 25,000. It's off by 0.85%. You can go down, you're gonna see the pluses and minuses, and I will tell you that one is because, if you remember, we cut many staff members last year. Cut about 40 staff members. Along with the staff members we cut, I took their health care with them. Well, I will tell you that different ways people bumped to full-time status or enough to get health care. So the number of people reduced in our health care plan was less than what I had projected. And that's what's causing that as a problem. Okay, do you understand what I said there?
Yes.
Meaning that when I took a person out of the budget, I said, oh, we're gonna save $80,000. We didn't save $80,000 because we had other people getting benefits, so it didn't. So that's the same thing here. The other thing is the other benefits.
What are other benefits?
right here, you will see employee foot spending contributions is $104,000. The healthcare balances prior to the HRA. In the past, when people retired, we would pay a portion of their severance out as a 403B. After that, we would say, until you use up this money, get a spreadsheet, and you don't have to pay any healthcare premiums until that money on our spreadsheet is finished. Almost an off-the-books benefit. It was not calculated or anything, it was just, oh, they do this. We have now gone into an IRS approved HRA. So what we're going to do is take money, put the payment in the HRA, we accumulate the expense, and now that's what we're doing. So all those type of things is making us at 663.48.
What's the 403B? That's the hugest part.
The employee.
That's
Is
403B.
there unused sick time,
It's
vacation?
unused time, vacation time, severance payouts at the end of their thing, and there is one payment for a contract.
Because I'm cheating here, that was 307,000.
Yeah, it's a virtue of the contract, you're paying for unused.
I'm just so I get the cheat, so I want to.
No, but some of that, truthfully, some of it I think you may be seeing as well. You know, we had some principals and whatnot retired. They have a different.
You can-
Oh, yeah, I'm not.
No,
I just, I feel bad, I was looking at it.
You don't have to put Mike here. That's all administration.
Okay, that's fine. No, I don't need to, yeah.
Okay, I just want to show it's tied in, I have it reconciled. But in total, you will see that we underexpended salary benefits by $300,000. It was off by 0.17%. So I'm happy with that.
Should be.
Okay, I'm just hoping it's never a negative, because then I'm in trouble. And that's when our fund balance goes down faster than we want it to. Okay, 300 to 900 objects. We underexpended that by 5.48%, I'm sorry, or 2,882,000. Those are all the discretionary monies. Go ahead, Matt. I highlighted the areas that were underexpended. Buildings and grounds was underexpended by almost 1.4 million. Special services is underexpended by 664,000. I need to tell you that we still don't have the final bill, reconciliation bill from the IU. So that number could go down by $300,000 if that's what the number needs to be. Technology, 617,000. All the building budgets, 252,000. Securities under by 130,000. Curriculum is 108,000. Transportation was overexpended by 180,000. Debt service is overexpended by 265,000. Do you equate why debt service is overexpended? Remember, there's 2 years that we projected that we were going to use fund balance. That's how we use fund balance. The original numbers were like $800,000, but things have come in better, so it's 265,000. So guess what? There's no need for me to go to the capital reserve to pay this debt service off or anything like that. We can do it just through the normal operating budget because it just nets out to where we are.
As an example, excuse me for interrupting, but technology, where we underspend 617,000, is that just expenditures that are deferred perhaps a year?
So the best way to explain that is last year, early on, we realized we were developing this 3-year technology plan for expenditures. What I didn't want to do was go out and buy equipment that would then get pulled out of buildings and we'd have to put it somewhere else. So I delayed that.
Yes.
So that's why it didn't happen.
That's what I thought. Right.
It just didn't make sense to spend it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Matt wants that money back next year. That's what I'm hearing.
Hey,
No, it's a fair question in the sense that, hey, when we book fund balance and we have our education line item in LA or whatever we're calling it, you know, maybe some of it's designated against the technology platform.
Well, the building and grounds is the biggest one I see. I mean, WS for 5.5 million, we didn't give it to them, and then we got 1.3 left. And so I did ask that question, and one of the things that came back to me was, buildings and grounds projects take so long, well, I guess we all knew that, but you know, from the time we plan them, that by the time he realizes he has that money, he wouldn't be able to spend it in that same
That year,
year.
yeah.
So it becomes a little bit of a guessing game timing issue, because we had over $1 million last year. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes, like, we had 1.3 million, let's fix the sidewalk or whatever we need. Yeah, build fence. Whatever. But I understood it better by saying it's a timing issue for him to guess how
We
much.
could build another nine.
Okay, that is where, that's all I'm presenting tonight. I will give you more detail in October if you want it. These numbers are all subject to change. The auditors are still in, dealing with Gail every day, every minute of the day.
Working with,
So
not
can I-
dealing with.
Deal with me.
Can I
Working
ask
with
the
you.
board so that you have an accurate liaison to the 12th, if there, do we want to have Bob just come with the 3 million move towards summer projects, or do we want to wait and hear what Doug's going to present? Because right now, you're not going to prepare anything until we see Doug's.
Go to the first slide with the original,
Right.
just so you can see what's going on.
Right.
No, next one.
Do you need any indication from us today what the temperament of the board is?
I would
Or
appreciate
does
it. I will tell you, our fund balance is going down, and I will tell you, Mark, just because I was afraid you were gonna ask this question. Remember the mean, best case scenario and worst case scenario? Well, I'm gonna give it up, and we're at the best case scenario. Just so I.
Are you saying that exercise has been worth it, Bob?
No, I'm just saying that I'm being accountable. All I'm doing is being accountable to you.
Thank you.
But it's within my range. It's
That
just
word
a-
was necessary. Well, I think your budget, the budget over time is great. You've been budgeting at 3 million. You've been kind of giving us the ability to come in there, so I don't see why there isn't any reason why we should, let Doug start there. I'm sure he'll ask for more, but no reason why he can't start.
So the only thing I thought was that we got that plan common money back, and to put that back into buildings, it does reduce our fund balance more, so may not be the right thing to do. I'm not promoting.
So you're saying go to
I'm
5
just
million?
talking it,
Yeah.
I'm just talking out loud, I'm just thinking about the numbers, and I'm just saying, we got that plan con money.
Would you go to 5 million? I mean, I'm.
No, I wouldn't go to 5 million.
I just want to see what Doug has,
No.
but I mean, at a minimum, we should continue to budget 3 million.
I would think so, yeah.
I would say at least at 3 million, yeah.
Yeah,
I just-
Those are numbers based on what the project.
Yeah, I think we hear what Doug's
If you go to the second page,
Okay.
where the summary is that I.
Mace, Kathleen, anything else?
I mean, I want to know, based on what the numbers he rates on in that capital improvement book,
Yeah,
what the needs are. So, I mean, we know minimally, we're gonna commit to 3 million, but he's gonna come back to us and tell us what we need.
so let's just make sure he's doing that, he's coming back and asking for
Here's a
whatever.
5-year plan that you guys are gonna see, and you're gonna see for 5 years what the projected summer projects are.
Okay,
So they're definitely $3 million. Go ahead.
Total variance is 6.8 million. Is that, am I right? Forget about the operating.
Yes. By the variances, we created $6.9 million. You can write.
What was our total tax increase?
point,
2 point?
I thought it was 3.6 million, but that included assessed values going up too, so
I think.
you can say 4.6, but I'm not gonna tell you that's
No,
not just the tax increase. That was assessed value going up too, so.
Yeah, it was 2.425 in that school year. It wasn't what we just voted on, it was one prior.
Okay.
It was 2.425. I would say what you're saying here is about $3 million of this, or $3.5 million of this excess is the EIT you didn't see coming in the plan con. So the variance really is kind of $3 million or 1%, kind of, right, in reality?
Well, not, but, so for me, so summer projects are $3 million, although they're not in our operating budget, are our normal practice.
Yes.
So we still didn't cover our expenses by $500,000. In my
No, you're right.
my way of thinking about it, because I don't really consider that $3 million in summer projects optional.
I agree.
No.
So,
Can you send me an email with what that was for this budget year?
For this year.
What our tax increase was,
For this current, that year.
what you're referring to.
Yep.
So,
The year
the
before.
percentage and the dollar amount.
Okay, Stop loss insurance, are they familiar with the email I sent out a couple of weeks ago? Stop loss, we have self-insured health and prescription drug benefits. We purchase stop loss insurance to limit the amount we're responsible to pay toward an individual large claim. Meaning to say that where our exposure for any one claim is at 250, it's really supposed to be 275 because we moved it up last year to 275,000. After we get to 275, our responsibility goes away and it goes to this stop loss carrier. Okay, stop loss insurance market has become hard, meaning that they're having big losses and not a lot of people want to be exposing themselves to these claims types. Insurance experience marketplace, no insurance limits, that's ACA. I've been told by our group is that now that there's no limits, they are seeing insurers have to pay a lot more than they used to have to pay huge claims. And then specialty drugs is another area because our stop loss insurance includes the medical claims and also the prescription drug claims. And I'm going to show you that. Go ahead, the next one. This past year, we had 19 high claimants above $100,000. This year, we had 4 claimants above $275,000. And I will tell you, we had a great year. I'm going to show you how good a year we had, although these are some of our experiences. This is something that we saw coming, but it's never been like this before. One of our high claimants, medical payments, was only $40,000. Usually before, medical was almost all the high claimants, medical costs were really high. The prescription costs were $334,000. So it flip-flopped now, and we're seeing a lot of this with all the new specialty drugs that are out there.
You don't have a formulary?
Yes,
Yes.
we do. Specialty drug.
Not much of one, though.
Well, we pay $50 for it.
Nobody has a formulary on specialty drugs.
We pay $50, and the drug could cost $16,000. And this is one of those drugs.
Thank God.
We marketed 10 companies, and I have the names of the companies. In fact,
It's the one that I saw.
you're going to see the companies that we marketed. All carriers declined to quote except Highmark. And Highmark quote was 50% more than we're currently paying, and they lasered one of our individuals, meaning they excluded them from insuring them. They said, we'll take your plan, we'll insure everyone except that person there. You got to pay every dollar of that claim. And we just said that's unacceptable to us. So we didn't want to take that or look at that. Okay. Now I handed out this handout, and you can read this a lot better than you can read this. I've had problems trying to get that to read. But Jerry had an awesome point when he said to us, emailed back to everyone and said, hey, Bob, why are you keeping your threshold at $275,000? Why don't you go up to $300,000 and take less of a hit, an increase? Well, that's what we did last year, if you remember. We had a 14-month period, $250,000 threshold was 14%. So I went back to him and I said, we want to raise that to $275,000. It's 14 months, and they brought it all the way down to 4%. At the end of the time, if you look back here on the second page, in total, that's just listing claims. It's what the threshold would have paid us for the second column is the threshold that would have paid us the $250,000. The claim was $335,000. We would have got $85,000. $275,000, we actually got $60,000 back. So if you add everything we got back, and then you subtracted, if you will, the annual payment, we paid $548,000 last year in total, the net cost. If we would have stayed at $250,000 at the 14% increase, we would have only paid net $530,000. So I lost because we had enough claims that went over, and I will tell you that I waved my hand and I said, I recommended a bad move, it was a bad move on my part, but when I saw the savings we could generate from that, I thought it would be worth it. That's the same point I'm making here, is if you look at this, for $275,000, our premium for the year is $678,000, it's estimated at. For $300,000, it would be only $607,000, a difference of $70,451. Does everyone see that math? So how many 207, well, let's say $300,000 threshold claims do I need to eat up that $70,000? And all I need is 2.82. So I am saying it's not worth that exposure. Let's stay down here and pay the higher percentage. I had to act on that before September 1st. I acted on that, but that's my compelling reason why I did it. And I need you guys to say, okay.
I'm just curious, why don't you include that piece on our sheet? Why didn't you?
Because I had this and I had it all done. I wasn't going to give that sheet out because I thought you could read it here. And I'm looking at this and I just printed that like this afternoon saying, I need something. That sheet is a Gallagher sheet. This is a pasted Gallagher thing with my add-ins.
Okay.
So I didn't print it from here. I printed it from Gallagher's original sheet because you can't read those numbers. They're all foggy. You got it? Yeah. This will be online, so you can look at it again if you want. Okay, does everyone understand that part?
So it was a good idea, but it didn't work out.
That's the math didn't work.
All right. I wanted to show you, I'm talking about how bad this was and everything. This was a great year for our self-insurance. If you look at this, our total revenues were $25,852,000. Where do our revenues come from? The employer share comes from the general fund. The employee share comes from payroll. The retirees pay it in. The COBRA pays it in. So that's all the sources of revenue. As you will see, 25.2 went to healthcare, and workers' comp accounted for $642,000. Our expenses in healthcare are 23.6. That means this year we generated net assets of almost $6 million.
And that includes drugs?
Yes, that includes, yep. Remember 2 years ago where we had to add an extra $1 million because our plan went the other way? Our plan did very well. If you see, we were still in a deficit at the beginning of the year. Now we have a reserve or a surplus of almost 1.5. So although you're hearing how bad the stop loss was and everything, this is a very good plan here for us. Workers' comp's the same way. If you remember, we're in that retrospective plan, and we had great years with retrospective plans. This current year, we got out of that because a provider decided to give us a deep discount again. We could take a fully insured plan without taking any risk, and it was just as much or a little less than what our retrospective plan would be. But this is reserves that are sitting there now. If we want to go to retrospective, that will give us reserves in case we have a bad year in a retrospective plan. You get it? Everything good? So this is really great news for self-insurance because I was scared a few years ago.
We get the $1 million, we put it back.
Okay. What's that?
We put $1 million in that a couple years ago.
We had to put an extra $1 million in.
Can we get it back?
That is good news.
Yes.
That's great news. Thanks, Bob.
I'm very comfortable having that there in case we have a bad year. CRUSA Stadium turf. If you remember Turf the Rocks, I'm sure you did. In that deal, CRUSA was involved in supporting the project. And there was a number when I came to the district, and this was all done already, that they were going to repay us $300,000 for the cost of the turf. They were going to do that through rental fees. So since 2010, we've been receiving, I guess it was 2010 to 15, $3,854 per month We then increase it to $4,260.83, and the lease will run out May of 2020. For that, we allow CRUSA to use Walt Snyder Stadium at different periods of time. You'll see the lights on, you'll see all the youth kids running around, and it's got great use. It's been a great partnership. Go ahead.
Sure.
So, I am here to report that they've now paid back the $300,000 plus 3% interest. In total, they paid in lease payments or rental payments, $333,676. That's paid for as of August. Okay, go ahead. To date, that was just a revenue source in our general fund. It's paid back what we consider the debt service of the $300,000. I am asking the board to consider moving the rental out of the general fund and put it in the Turf the Rocks fund as a reoccurring revenue. Right now, I thought there was 80, I guess it's 83,000. Did I talk to you about 86,000? And this would generate more assets in the Turf the Rocks. It is available, based on your decision, for improvements at south, north, or the replacement of the turf at north. It's moving money out of the general fund and moving it in here, and it would be dedicated for that purpose. Okay. That's good. This is a new subject. Are you okay with doing that and would accumulate in that fund for a future project? Or the replacement of the turf so we don't have to use summer money?
So Bob, can I just ask a question?
Yep.
So that's CRUSA. We
Yes.
have other organizations that pay to use that turf as well.
Yes.
Personally, I think it makes sense so we can have visibility to that to put it in there, but I would suggest that it shouldn't necessarily just be that. I think that anybody that's using that turf, we should pull all that money in there, just so we can have full visibility of what it is, and I think it creates a full picture of what revenue will generate.
I don't know the magnitude of the other uses, but I will get that. It'll be,
Yeah, I would assume it's thousands, but anyway, so I know Patriots.
Right now, it's just sitting in regular miscellaneous.
Yeah, I agree. Truthfully, I really thought that we put the money in there already. Because what year did we do turf? I remember. Was it 2000?
I got here in 2010, and that summer it was done.
Okay, so we're 7 years in. So what's our renewal expectation? Is it in 3 more years or is it in 8 more years?
You're asking how long's the turf lasts?
Right, exactly. So that's my question, because it was 700 some odd to do it. Replacing it won't be as much because all the underlayment, all the conditioning is there. So yeah, but I think, yeah, put it there. But before you start talking about, and we could use it to do other things, I think we as a board need to know what's going to cost to replace what we got and what's our timetable to that. Because we don't have that.
I don't have that.
No. But if we don't, we should, because that will tell us we can't consider doing, I would consider doing something else with the money that's in that fund that we should be directing to until it exceeds the number required to replace what we got. For me.
Yeah, no, I'm good with that. All I need tonight is to say, yes, we agree, we should put it over there.
Yes.
So,
I've got it if you want it. Doug's got it budgeted at $780,000.
He's over budgeted because that's
Well,
how much
it's
it costs.
10 years later.
But that's how much it costs to put it in, which was a lot of concrete work too. This is.
I mean, I might be.
I hear.
Is there an adjustment to CRUSA's lease because they were paid up to their commitments, or are they
No.
going to continue to pay for it?
nothing's gonna pay. All it was, that was more of an internal thing. I was told to say that we need to account for it until they have, they're not getting any adjustment or anything. It was more of an internal calculation I was told to do. Actually, Gail has done it the last couple of years.
If we do this, does it obligate us to use it for that? If we say to you tonight, yes, move it, but we get to 2010 and we say, we've got another project that's more important or more critical, will we have to use it to turf?
I don't want to answer that question.
Okay. Well, for me, I don't want to obligate a future board to have to use that money for that when there could be something else more critical. I don't mind designating it, saying that's what because I do philosophically think that's what it should go to, but I don't know if I want to absolutely unconditionally, because there won't be, if we go on this way, there won't be enough money if it costs $780 to turf the rock. So not only, I feel like it's not, I don't know.
You can put it over, but it depends on, it's what his point was, you can go check, but it depends how broad you decide to define that definition of what it's to be used for. Because you could say turf at north, which would be kind of confining potentially, or you could say the maintenance of fields within the district.
If it was maintenance of field, that's fine, but if it's turf,
Right.
it's pretty clear it's turf.
You're stating how broad you want it to be.
What I'm talking about here is I've never seen any of this in writing. This is all what I've learned from being on the job and talking to Mark Klein.
So where's that 80, so what's in the turf of the rock now, just to think about the spirit of the money?
Yes.
Where did that 83,000 come from? And what was it?
For a few years, $1 of the ticket price would go into,
We still get
we're still doing that.
vacation.
We continue to put $1 to the ticket price into turf to rocks. The signage that I'm going to talk about was revenues coming in from turf to rocks.
Originally, that was north and south, and just north got done, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at this as a broader athletic field piece, and to Wendy's point, is there, I mean, to me, it's semantics, it's just a name, that doesn't limit my thinking on what we should do, especially when we have imbalanced fields. We gotta look to replace north at the time that it needs it, so we need to know when and how much. But, I'll be talking to individual board members over time about, what south looks like. So, but I think the important part is having visibility to this money, so whatever we call it, don't care, but just having visibility to.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like having it all go in one place where we know what it is and we know where it came from. I just want to understand by voting for that, what that obligates a future board or restricts a future board.
Are we actually voting? I mean, would that be a motion? A motion? or
No,
consent?
I was going to do it based on this
Yeah.
thing here.
Okay.
I was placing it there with an understanding that I got.
Meaning you could move it out if you came back to the table and said anything, right?
It's not the same, you don't have a reserve fund, and certain things, once you put a reserve fund, it becomes purposeful. You can't move it.
Well,
somewhere.
that's why I won't answer the question.
Right, that's what I'm saying, so you're
Yes.
gonna get the answer from.
I'm going to talk to Rob Cox about it, and I will tell you, you can have capital reserve funds for different reasons. And I want to talk to him, there's a municipal code one, and there's a school code one. And I want to talk to him about how he uses. He may say, this is really a special revenue fund that you could use for capital, and then it's a different parameter. So I don't know how to answer the question.
Suggestion, maybe we call it turf and athletic fields or turf and something a little broader. And that would be a compromise for me, where there's some flexibility to use it for things that would work. But strictly for turf, I think it should be broader. That's my opinion. But I like tracking it separately. I don't know, anybody else? Denise, Kathleen, do you guys have?
No, I agree with Wendy. I like that it's separate, that that's what it is, but.
You want to know what you can do with it once it gets in there.
You don't want to be pigeonholed, but.
I look at it this way, that at some point, we may need to replace it, we may not have enough money in it, and that's when you put up the big thermometer that shows you what the shortfall is for what it costs, what it does, because you may have a lot of public fundraising.
Kathleen, did you want to?
I agree with you. Initially, I thought it sounds fine to leave it for the fields, or the turf, but
You want to
flexibility is
understand
good.
what the limitations are. I will get that answered for the 12th.
Thanks.
This is another issue that I will tell you that John Donahue is doing a wonderful job getting sponsorship signs at the stadium. I can tell you, I'm not going to be able to say that 3 times. He, a few years ago, and it was with Mark saying, John needs to back away from this and we need to take it over. I haven't done a very good job of taking it over. There hasn't been a lot of interest. And this year I have 3 parties that are very interested in putting up signs. Go ahead, just so that you can see.
Bob, can I just clarify something? I'm sorry. By you taking it over, what does that mean? What exactly?
John Donahue was a community member that was involved in Turf the Rocks. They did a lot of fundraising activities, and some of them was Sterling Limousine.
That's his.
Yep. They paid for 5 years to have that up there, $5,000 for each sign. That has gone by the wayside. There wasn't a lot of interest. Now I've gotten 3 parties to contact me and they're interested. I don't want to just keep, pardon me?
Interested in posting signs or
Yeah.
interested in running the program?
No.
Fundraising.
Postings,
Okay.
signs. I do not want to go and, I've already worked with Rob. We have a sponsorship agreement put together, but I don't want to start saying it's this amount of money or this amount of money. I'm working for you guys now, so I want you to know that, hey, I'm looking to do this. This is interest. I believe this is more revenue that would go into Turf the Rocks, and people are waiting for me to have you guys say, yeah, it's okay. Now, could you go back? I just want to do it.
So those signs have been up.
Yes.
Are we still getting $1,200
No.
a year? Are those signs coming down?
Yes.
Have we notified the people who are taking their signs down?
I notified them in 2015 and asked them if they wanted to continue, and I didn't get a lot of responses. I don't remember, I have them upstairs, but I will tell you, most of them will come down and they're not gonna know.
So give them one more shot, say, it will come down tomorrow, you got a freebie, you wanna pay, keep it up.
Yeah.
We wanna keep it up, pay, or it's gonna.
Actually, send them a bill for last year and a bill for next year. Just tell them we're a year out, it's behind.
They have no contract with us, I don't
That's
think.
fine, they won't take the bill.
Guys,
They won't take the
wait.
sign down.
Go ahead, Mark.
Instead of you doing fundraising and solicitation of these.
That's where I was going, Mark.
There has to be someone out there who we can contract, who will take a piece of fundraising to get this done, right?
We've
Yeah.
talked about that with companies many years ago, and it kind of fell down because of, I think, percentages, wasn't it?
Lancaster was involved in it, but there was
Yeah.
dissension on the board.
And I will tell you, like,
50% of 20 signs is better than
this year
zero.
ago, because I have other things. I
No
do.
signs.
Right, right.
And
Yeah, I just don't want our finance guy doing this, period.
I don't mean to be stupid, but this wouldn't fall at all under the communications person's purview.
I got the emails from the athletic director saying, these guys.
I was
want
thinking
this.
it belonged to the athletic director for.
You know what? Here's to your point, any athletic, not director, but any athletic, the school that sells them, they get 25% of what goes up. Goes up on the
Somebody
they
still has to
get
manage the project.
Somebody, we're paying these people to do other jobs other than
Let
solicit
the
funds.
boosters do
Can
it.
we let the boosters do it,
That would
or
be okay.
have a private organization do it?
So-
We're not paying salaries and future pensions on,
Can we-
please.
Can we do one thing? Can we say, let's have Robert present to us people who could do this? In the short term, you've got 3 people, you've got an agreement. Can we just agree that we'll do that,
Take the
take
money.
down the current signs, put up the
But
3,
he has
new ones
approve
and take the money?
signs, yeah.
So we don't expect you to go out and solicit, we don't expect you to go out and solicit. But yes, if you could facilitate these 3, because that's income to us, everybody in agreement, anybody have a problem? And also, as a follow-up to this meeting, could we ask Robert to come up with a proposal of who could do this for us? Either the communications person, outside company, whatever he
We
thinks.
did an RFP about six or 7 years ago, you remember that? We did an RFP for people to do this for us.
That was
We
Lancaster.
got 3 or 4 responses.
But I wanna know who
Physical.
in his organization he wants to either do the RFP or come, like, is Robert
Okay.
come back to us with a proposal of how he sees this playing out?
Can I help with this? Does
Yes.
anybody object to that?
No?
Okay.
No.
Is that okay with you? Okay.
You're doing it for the school.
Wait, you're taking 25?
I'm not taking anything, Jerry.
No, you're just gonna help.
Just the aggravation,
Yeah.
I'll take, right? So we can, because I don't want any school employee, my opinion, anybody we're paying salaries now and pension later, doing this.
Okay.
So,
I had Sinorama moved up, there's a lot to it that,
That's
you could sit down with me and I could explain it all to you.
let's do it.
that's
Are
my.
you okay
Mark's
with,
fired.
are you okay with $5,000 for 5 years?
You already said yes, we'll
Okay,
get those 3.
okay,
But,
go ahead.
but, do we have a policy around what can and cannot be?
Now you sound like me.
The agreement says it's our discretion what can be advertised, and we can include,
Alcohol.
yes, all that stuff. That is in the agreement for sure. Okay? Are you good, Jared?
I'm fine with it. I sign around and take a big part of it and.
They take about 500 and.
No. My point was, we have a form, you fill it out.
Yeah.
Gotta be if I sign around, I have to send your money.
Okay, moving on. Okay, this is a pretty big issue, but, we, entered into an agreement with Gallagher Benefits beginning July 1st, 2015, after an RFP process, a pretty detailed RFP process.
What? No, I don't think so. I was on the board then. I don't remember an RFP before that for 2015, not for Gallagher.
Yeah,
Was that
2015 for Gallagher.
I don't think so.
And
That,
well, I sat on the committee where one was done, but.
but maybe that was 15 because I questioned it and they said that you had just done.
Go
I
forward.
started in 13.
Might be 14, you said?
13. It was before I was on the board.
Go forward.
12, 13.
August 13, sorry.
You're right, Mark. Of course.
You were right, I'm sorry. We must have renewed the contract July 1st, 2015. I didn't read this slide lately and I didn't go forward, so I apologize. Cobra administration per year, they get $6,100. And they send out all the required documentation and manage the whole process. Benefit administration is $102,000. The district pays fees, net of commissions paid directly to Gallagher from our insurers. These fees, if you remember the self-insurance fund where I showed you the $24 million and all that, these fees are part of that cost. They're not in the general fund. They are paid out of the self-insurance fund. They've asked for a new proposal, 3-year contract, increase fee by $2,500 in year 1 and year 3. Let's keep going because I have more information. If you look 16, 17, we went to a new pharmacy benefit manager, $6,500 we paid in addition. If you remember, that's where we went to the Delaware Valley Consortium or Delaware Consortium. So we paid, gross compensation was $114,000. Commissions received by them was $40,000, so we paid $74,000. You can go back and look at each of these years, and you'll see the net fees there. Carriers with commission distributions was Express Scripts, MetLife, that's Division, and Sun Life. Okay?
How do we account for the commissions? How do we audit that?
The
We don't audit
companies
that.
that Express Scripts tells us.
So we get direct reports from the companies that take.
Well, I don't know if you do, but.
If I
they're available.
request them, I would get them.
Yeah, they're available. They sound.
I can do that if you want me to really look. I haven't done that though. But if you say,
Yeah, I want, since the beginning, we've never audited the commissions.
I will tell you, back in 2012, there was a problem with commissions and we got everything.
I don't understand. What do you mean by that?
We were not getting distributions of commissions. We got it paid for then after we found it.
And then we never looked again.
I haven't.
But that was prior to Gallagher.
There's a different firm, there was the same firm, a different office of Gallagher. It was a very different environment. Okay. 2013 is when we did the RFP. Gallagher was our existing consultant, but it was serviced by another office. Back then, we were paying $148,000. They dropped it to $102,000. Haven't had a raise since then.
So they're not working for less, they're just making more commissions, right?
No, they get net
That's everything.
commissions, yeah.
Net commissions.
So why difference?
They want
They want his business.
Okay.
Over the last 4 years, Gallagher has successfully partnership with us. Go ahead. You guys can just read through this.
I think. 10 times as much.
They've done a lot of things. The biggest thing I wanted to see here is this past year, over 3 years, we believe we're going to save $3.5 million in prescription drug costs by getting us in the Delaware County Healthcare Consortium. This had a dramatic effect on this past year's budget. If you remember, our prescription drug was $1 million more if we didn't get in there. The only reason we knew about it was because Gallagher is their consultant.
Can you do me a favor? Can you advance this slide, this information to Chris English? I mean, it's great that he was here for the discussion about facilities. We're talking about planning that your office, the board, and this consultant have done, let's say $3.5 million over 3 years. So between you and Susie, Chris English, because I think this is the story here that
I will talk to Chris English, that when you approve this, I'm just gonna say, here's information, please write about what Gallagher's done and what we've done in partnership with Gallagher. I will tell you, we have two CRA members here. One of the things I've said, go ahead, I think they are participating in collective bargaining over the next 2 to 3 years. We have bargaining with these guys, January of 18, Cresta, January of 19. I believe Gallagher is partners with us well in the past, and I think they have a good reputation with the association. I believe it would be a hardship to bring them, another group in here, to try to build a relationship we have when it becomes negotiating in 3 months. I talked about it before, the self-insurance fund. I can go over more things if you want. Okay, keep going. Okay, moving forward, go ahead. Go back to it.
End of show.
I'd like to, I will tell you, we had some.
what do you want from us? What do you want from us today?
You want us to just say go with Gallagher?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's been 4 years since we've done an RFP. We have no audit of the commissions since 2012, I think you said. Even if Gallagher's the right way to go, I'm not comfortable with a 3-year contract. So without an RFP process. We went through an RFP process and said, okay, we looked at everybody else based on our history, that carries a lot of weight, and based on the competition, what came out, then let's stay with Gallagher. But just saying, hey, they're the greatest thing in the world, let's just continue with them.
So,
And without having all that information, it's irresponsible, in my opinion, as a board of elected officials, just to say, let's not do any due diligence and let's just move forward and hand them a 3-year contract. I would be comfortable with 1 year, because that takes us to what I believe is the outside mark, taking into consideration your negotiations, the outside mark for that 3 to 5 year period where we should be reviewing all of our vendors. Let's not forget, we're still sitting on RFPs for our insurance. We still have a 35-year relationship with our solicitor. I think it's 35 years that we have never RFP for, as far as I know. So we're not doing our job with this.
so my opinion on this is, and I work in this business, is that if we go to RFP versus the $2,500, we'll probably have Gallagher quote us a higher rate. Because from what I've seen out in the marketplace, this is a hell of a deal. So I think we run the risk of them not abiding by the 2,500. I'd also be surprised if we offered that, if we said we'd sign for 1 year, they'd honor the 2,500, because they're giving us that so they can lock us up for 3 years. So I think, based on the amount of savings they got us on pharmacy alone, et cetera, plus going into bargaining, I would be very comfortable. And that's my opinion. Bob came to me, he knew you'd feel this way, because Mark, I think you've been very consistent about this. There are other things we have never RFP'd. I prefer we did that and took the time, and then for a $5,000 increase in expense, put this on the back burner, because last year, Denise, Mark, and I all said we would review something between all the capital planning meetings and everything else we did, and I would take, it was nobody else's fault, my fault too. We could not get scheduled, we could not get time together to even review them. So I don't think it's reasonable to say that we can RFP 18, whatever many things. This is a $5,000 increase over 3 years with a group that just saved us an enormous amount of money. So I'm not saying it should never be RFP'd, and the one thing I will say is audit the commissions before our final vote. I think that's a fair, reasonable. If anything comes out in those commissions, I'm not gonna not say I wouldn't change my mind.
Right.
But to me, the Gallagher we contracted with 3 years is vastly different. It's only the same in name. It's a different person. It's a different people doing our finances. it's for all intents and purposes, it was a different group
Yeah.
that we are working with. And so that's how I would feel about it. I don't disagree philosophically with the RFP, but in this case, I'd rather see us RFP and get through some of those other things. I mean, what was the one we have outstanding that we never looked at?
That's the
I've looked-
regular general business.
Well, I looked at it 6 months ago too, but I'm just saying we haven't met.
Well, I tried
haven't-
several times to schedule meetings,
You have-
but and Wendy, it's got nothing to do with Gallagher, it's got to do with the process, and it has to do with due diligence and our responsibility. So, that's.
But I'm saying we haven't done it. We put our-
I hear it, well, because we have to be serious about it.
I'm fine with staying with them. I look at it this way, because Andy asked the question, why would they go down? They wanted to build the business. They've settled into a cadence with us in terms of doing the work. They have a relationship with our insured persons, which has some value to us. You know, I don't know, when I'm looking at moving numbers that big, what am I really expecting to say? And I do fear upsetting the apple cart with the RFP, because if you put it out, it's not only, and that's the other thing, which is it's not only producing, the RFP is for professional services. So even when you look at just the numbers, a large component on that, from the matrix of assessment, is what's your comfort of interaction with them. Very comfortable in this case. And lastly on this, if we were to change, the numbers would be unsettled. I would create a burden to our business office, our HR department. There would be a large redo of work in that space. So the money I save, if I save $50,000, which I think would be impossible on a $100,000 bill, if I save $50,000, I'd use it up in the labor and effort not being done by the people doing the job now. So the potential savings there just isn't worth it to me. So I'm good. And by the way, it's $5,000. If it's 3 more years, that goes out to 2018. It's actually back to the original contract because they went down. So it's actually, they're taking a $5,000 increase. Net, they're actually $32,000 less than they were originally.
You have to
Still.
have a look.
Can I make one final comment? Was someone else going to say something?
I think Gary would like to say something, just so he can speak about the associations.
Well, I would like to add to the conversation, and I appreciate the opportunity. In 2013, I actually had the opportunity to be on the committee where we did go through the RFP process. Can I say the other names of the companies?
Sure.
Okay, so it was Aon, yeah, and it was Novell. And they really were far in front of the bid process, way ahead. Now Gallagher.
Define what that means, much more expensive.
Much more expensive. Okay, thank you for allowing that to be clarified. Prior to the brand of Gallagher, it was RSI, and RSI had a lot of problems, so they did come in low to make up for their issues, and then they rebranded themselves to the parent company name. So that was very beneficial through the process. Now, when you talk about the auditing, I do believe there is an internal audit process that automatically occurs through third parties. The fact that you see that or not is because there haven't been the red flags that you saw with RSI. Again, probably didn't look at it, but yes, those audits take place through third-party processing. And we have had so many issues that now Gallagher has been working with us so long that if you go to RFP again and then change companies, it's $5,000 would be, you wish we only spent $5,000, I guess is the point. So I think, speaking on behalf of my experience representing the association, Joe, you can concur if you would. We've been very successful.
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, definitely. I've heard only good stuff about them, especially recently, so. We don't want to lose.
They become their advocates to the insurers. So these guys, membership call Gallagher, and Gallagher talks to IBC and gets some of their issues.
Exactly.
So that's the side that they see more than I see. But I will tell you that our financials, we had to grow together to get to where we are. We understand each other's numbers much better than when we started. And I'm afraid of that growth there, that something gets messed up because there's some number or something that occurs when we're developing premium stuff. That's the only thing I would say.
All right, let's let everybody have a say. Mark, you want to say something else?
Did everyone else on the board?
Did anybody else want to say anything, Mike or Kathleen or Denise?
I'm good with staying if that's what you're looking for.
So I just feel like it's necessary to state again that this is not about Gallagher. This is about process. This is not about $5,000 increase, $7,500 increase. This is about process and own responsibility. So, and I just want to remind everyone that I sat here pounding the table about the same thing when Doug wanted to run with his construction team. And he acquiesced. We had 3 people he was comfortable with. And on several occasions, he said that's been a good move for a few different reasons. And that's effectiveness of the buildings we're doing, some cost savings and whatnot. So, you can't just, for lack of a better term, blindly say, these are the people we're comfortable with, so we should just continue. We have a responsibility as an elected board to make sure we're getting the best value and the best services for our community. And again, this is not about Gallagher. Thank you.
I agree with you. I just wish we were having this conversation like 4 months ago.
I've been having this conversation for the past 4 years.
No, but I agree with you though, because I do think that it should RFP, but given all the commentary, given the context, and given that we're 3 months away from the first collective bargaining conversations, unfortunately, I don't think the time is right to make the switch, but, so it is a good thing that I have a high comfort level with Gallagher and that this feedback from the associations is great, but I totally agree with you. I don't think it is right that we just continue to perpetually continue with the same contracts without knowing that we explored other options.
It was 2013 that you RFP'd and went with Gallagher. It's only 4 years. I mean, it's not. And so if we go for, how many more years was it? 3? That's still 7 years. How much can it change or deteriorate?
$100,000 contract. It's $100,000.
No, I mean the quality of service, so it seems the right thing to do.
I will do whatever you want. You know where I feel.
I think it's pretty clear.
I want to give you, just because you mentioned it, I want to give you a little background. In 1976, the board.
Can you give it to me later?
No, because you brought it up here on public meeting. In 1976, the board actually moved away from Eastburn and Gray. That was after having served with Eastburn and Gray from 1938 to 1976. It lasted for about a year, and then Eastburn and Gray was put back in place. So they've been in place, truthfully, for about 70 years. Having said that, a number of years ago, we did put out a contract to discuss with other attorneys what it would take to represent the board, both in labor negotiations and in general support. And we went through that process of reviewing those proposals. So it's not for 35 years or 26 years that we haven't reviewed them. We did review them, and ultimately we settled with Eastburn and Gray. And I think, Wendy, you were the chair of the president of the board.
We didn't do a formal RFP.
But we did do a renegotiation in terms of pricing and structure.
So I feel compelled to say again, it's not about the vendor, it's about the process and our responsibility as elected officials on a public board.
Agreed.
Okay, any other comments this evening? Bob, that was your last item, right?
What's that?
That was your
That was
last item?
it.
Okay, meeting, everybody, you guys good? Okay, meeting adjourned.